Now, Superman the Red Sun is a very special piece of media to me in its various forms. I watched it in both the animated and then the quasi animated, and then read it in the comic book version about twice. I just finished the comic version the second time. Like, what? Not too long ago, actually, because I just needed to, well, obviously refresh, but also because it's just that good of a comic. It's very short. It ends in like one issue, and it starts in 1953 with Superman landing in the Ukraine instead of Kansas. I think it was that he got there 12 hours later than he should have been. And throughout the passage of this story, you can see that at his core, Superman is still Kal-El, is still a very good man. He still means well to an extent, is what I'm trying to say. He's definitely not as good as he's supposed to be, since one of his first introductions is sitting next to fucking Joseph Stalin. But you can see that his ideals as a person, that he sees himself as one of the working people, that he does believe that every man is created equal, and all of this talk about, like, especially from Joseph, let's call him, insinuating that he should be put in power next. Him being very much against that idea because, if anything, it's against the communist rule that he was raised on, which is that we are all created equal, as I said. And between him and Joseph, there is Peter. And Peter, if I'm saying his name correctly, let's call him Koslov. I think that was his last name, Koslov. Koslov is an illegitimate son of Joseph, and he was made the chief of police by the age of 25. At the beginning of the book, Joseph, before his death, even insinuates that he should be grateful for what he has already because, I mean, we literally have this nigga in the sky who can do just about anything. You hit this nigga with a hydrogen bomb, he gonna cough, maybe. But he obviously feels a great amount of jealousy towards that. It's also is insinuated in some ways that he can kind of see where this is heading. Obviously, he would be a much worse ruler than Superman, not to the excessive body horror extent, or at least science fiction body horror extent, but who the hell knows? It's Joseph Stalin's fucking son. But you could see that Peter is very troubled, or Koslov is very troubled. And he is actually in this universe, in this, or at least in this Elseworld story, he is the reason why Batman's parents are dead. Batman's parents were a couple of anti-Superman revolutionists, did already saw where this was heading to, and were murdered because of it. And even Kozlov says that those were not the eyes of a 9-year-old boy. They were too calculated, too patient. And in a rare moment that I think you only see once I'm almost certain you only see once in the entire story, he feels regretful for the things that he's done, for the position that he's in, for the man he was born to be, for the man that he ultimately is. And he tries to basically clock himself out, let's say. And Superman catches the bullet and he gets pissed at him. But right as that happens, he hears of the poisoning of Joseph, tries to fix it, and ultimately nothing can be done. So now there's a absence of power, and Superman himself still does not want to take on the position of power. He still doesn't, it still goes against his morals as a person. During this entire thing, by the way, he meets Princess Diana. I think it's really funny, this part of her mama saying that she likes Joseph's woman's rights, which at that time, not even in America, it was good. So you thinking communist Russia is good, ran under Joseph Stalin, that them rights is good? Like, it's a little crazy that she would say this, but it's an Elseworld story where, who was it that got assassinated? It was Bush that got assassinated instead of JFK, and JFK ended up living for quite a while before being succeeded. by Lex Luthor, but that goes all the way to like way at the end of the story. By the way, spoilers. And this is very much a story that I would say at its core is what happens to a, or what becomes of a broken god. What becomes of a person put under all of the wrong influences while still being good at heart? What is that broken God even willing to sacrifice to do what he believes is just means? Because his first introduction with Brainiac is through Lex Luthor. And I think this introduction comes after he tries to create his own version of Superman. It was their version of Bizarro Superman, which I actually really like the design of. He looks absolutely petrifying. And I come up with this theory of Superman being ultimately good at heart. I hope you don't get annoyed at the way that I pronounce Superman. For some reason, my brain wants to say it as fast, like as quickly as possible. So you're gonna hear a lot of Superman. But after this Bizarro Superman is created, and Luthor being the smartest nigga on the goddamn planet, this nigga's fucking Reed Richards bitch ass, except evil in a different way. he do evil shit, and he get held accountable for it mostly. I guess maybe not in this one, but he creates a Bizarro Superman where he takes his X-ray vision a little too literally. Like he irradiates almost every bird within like what was it, a 200-mile radius. 3 out of 4 nukes stay in their prospective boats or prospective shuttles or wherever they keep them, but things that I don't know. I should know. I don't know though. And Bizarro and Superman meet in the UK. And I feel like I'm telling the story in a very backwards manner, or at least a very like scattered manner, but that's because number one, I just finished reading it, and also I'm very excited to talk about it. But when they both see that missile go off, and there's no real words exchanged other than, Superman telling him to get the fuck on, like, you are the weapon. America is only making shit worse, like, what the fuck? And I really like, while they're battling, that even to this day, even as the story is being told from the far, far, far future perspective, that even still Superman can remember the bones breaking and how many people died that day, and just how attentive he is to human lives, and how much he ultimately wants to fix them, how much he ultimately wants to make human life better, but adopted under the bosom of Joseph Stalin, that's not gonna come out the way you want it to. And in this split second traded between him and this Bizarro Superman, you really get this. He is ultimately good at heart, no matter what version you make of him, except Ultraman, I guess. That the Bizarro Superman goes for the nuke first, and he sends it out of the solar system, and I think his last words are, "Hello, everyone, me very nice to meet you." Something of the sort. Like, he didn't know much English, or at least didn't know how to speak much of it. And not even the original Superman from that universe, or at least that Elseworld, could tell if he knew what he was doing, or if it was just the instinct that people like him inherently get when a decision has to be made. He doesn't know if it was going to be him or the Bizarro Superman, but ultimately the Bizarro Superman decided to freeze him in place to sacrifice himself, instead of letting, all of UK be leveled to the fucking ground and turned into Chernobyl. Even though he turned a good amount of the sea definitely into Chernobyl with his X-ray vision. Holy shit. And it's kind of funny because after that they cut back to Lex, and he tells, because him and Lois Lane are together, actually, like, they get together, like, if it ain't Superman, it's gonna be Lex, I guess. But he tells Lois that their marriage is on an indefinite sabbatical, not because of this massive fuck up, like massive fuck up, but because the nigga beat him at chess the night before. Like, he killed the scientist there, he ended his contract with Star Labs, he did all that over being beaten in chess. And if that ain't the most Lex Luthor shit I ain't never heard in my life. But after that attempt, quite a few things happen. He has his own version of Lana Lane. I can't remember what her last name is, but he knew her back in Ukraine when he was just a boy. And and I hope I'm getting this in order. During his comeback celebration, he hears her voice in the crowds, and even he starts to think what would have happened if he would have came in north instead of the way that he came in that day. Because had it not been for him meeting Lana at that food station and seeing that her and her children were both starving for scraps, he probably would not have taken rule in communist Russia, and things wouldn't have gone as far as they did, which I think after that is when he basically confronts Luthor about Brainiac and tries to reprogram him. Which obviously doesn't work. He's a level 12 intelligence. I'm sorry. It don't matter how many books you can read real fast. You ain't. Brainiac is in a whole nother level. So I don't know what the fuck he thought he was going to do it. But again, under the bosom of Joseph Stalin. Let's just call that the excuse. Or at least the reason. But he starts to work with Brainiac in this way to fix the world. He doesn't want anybody to go hungry. He doesn't want anybody to be homeless. He ultimately wants the ideal lifestyle for the average human without the freedoms that the ideal lifestyle for the average human would come with. And while all this is happening, the U.S. government is doing their best to, beat Superman at any cost. The U.S. government has always and seems to always will be up until the moment that it fucking collapses, capitalist society. So it's only America and Chile by this point that hasn't fallen into the communist rule of Superman, because by this point he's making a better difference. It's just like, don't talk no shit. Basically, it's the same thing like it was under Joseph. Don't say shit, it won't be shit. And that's generally not how a free world is. But this is when you're introduced to Batman. And before you're introduced to Batman, there is some brief commentary between him and Wonder Woman. It's gotten to a point where it feels like he can't talk to anyone these days, that it feels like the only person that really understands him to his own level is Diana. And Diana, at this point, has developed some mighty feelings for this man, while as he literally calls her one of the boys, which, ouch, holy shit. But on the day of Superman's birthday celebration, Superman captures Wonder Woman in her own lasso of truth. And him, with the help of Kozlov and Lex Luthor, have devised a plan to recreate the environment of Krypton so Batman could beat the snot out of this nigga. And he ends up beating the snot out of this nigga. He puts him in a little bunker and basically traps him there. He says he won't kill him. And even so, even doing all of this, he still Batman himself still respects Wonder Woman as an ambassador for peace. And I think he might think that she might just be under the same whims that the rest of the world have fallen under when it comes to Superman's boyish Boy Scout, just lovable charm that he has, to where you can see in his eyes that he genuinely wants to do better. It's just what he's doing is not better. And this is where I would say is probably one of Superman's most selfish acts of all. Because by this point, he's already implanting little surgical chips in niggas' heads to make them better and make them work like better jobs. Basically what Marvel did with like all them supervillains and having them in a town and brainwashing them and, having them live with like regular people, but, that whole that's not ethically right thing. But the most selfish thing to see him do is to just, he could have thought his way out of it. Superman is Superman. Superman found out within seconds that there was a poison in Joseph Stalin's body, or Joseph's body, because I don't know if this is going to get me demonetized or not, and I'm not monetized anyway, so it doesn't even matter. But I don't know if this is going to get me hidden by the algorithm, is what I'm saying. he could have figured out a way to get out of there. There was a human mind way. Even Batman says the power of the human mind, and you were raised as a human being. So to ask Diana, I feel like in some way knowing her affinity towards you, or at the very least using his leverage as one of her closest friends to get her to break her lasso of truth in order to save him, I think it was very selfish and fucked up. Like, genuinely almost. Well, I mean, it did what the book wanted from me, to show me that this is not the correct Superman at all. And it really fucks her up for a while. So much that she starts to kind of breed this deep seated hatred for Superman, because not only will she never get his affection, but she's effectively lost her immortality. She hasn't lost her powers, I don't think, but she's definitely not the Wonder Woman that she was before she was coerced into breaking, the lasso of truth. And first of all, Batman's like, fuck that. I ain't with none of that shit. You was not putting no chip in my motherfucking brain, and just blows his shit up immediately. And obviously, he snitches on Peter first, or Kozlov first. He snitches on him first. And the next thing you see is Lana seeing Kozlov, and he got that big ass Superman chip on the side of his head. He ain't even trying to make it look right. I'm sure Brainiac, level 12 intelligence, could have made it look not as noticeable as it is, but he's turning these people into monstrosities, putting antidepressants into the water systems to make it so people are happier, regardless of, like, you need gene testing for some of that shit. And he is at this point spending a lot of time in his fortress. There has been an even bigger Batman resistance now that he's died as a martyr. And Lex Luthor has found the ring of the Green Lantern. Apparently in 1947, an alien had crash landed on Earth in the USA. They had hidden it on a black site, and then got rid of the black site, which was already a black site, but decided to dig it up again as another deterrent to Superman, or at least an attempted deterrent to Superman, because the real deterrent was actually in Lois Lane's pocket. And I do like the very subtle but present dynamic between Superman and Lois. That that these two people should be together, that these two people know that they should be together, but ultimately cannot be, because not only have they been born on two different sides of the line, but she is married to Lex Luthor at this point. But at some point, she even says that since she was a little girl, she's dreamed of falling out the sky and has never been afraid of that dream, because every night Superman was there to catch her, and now he's real. But who knows what his intentions are now? And by this point in the story, by the time they've gotten the Green Lantern Corps, and Brainiac is trying to orchestrate a full-scale assault on America, because at this point Lex Luthor has become president and has done wonders for the economy, for the cost of living, for just everybody in America, and basically becoming a grand competitor to the regime of Superman, and kind of forcing his hand, especially now with the full might of Themyscira and Princess Diana and Wonder Woman in them, like they two different people. But before that happens, Lex Luthor breaks into the ship, and this shit actually made me laugh a little bit, because Brainiac cuts that conversation off so goddamn quick. He tells him, bro, if you would have talked this nigga for like a solid 15 minutes, he would have talked you into killing yourself, dog. He would have talked you out of here. And he was right. He was right too. Shit, he was right. I mean, I have to get to the ending first, and I'm getting ahead of myself, and it's because I'm so excited. I really like this book. But he ends up basically using his tendrils and stuff to take him into the core of Brainiac's ship, Brainiac himself, and says to Superman, you better fucking, these niggas and up the pole, you better up it too, all this other shit. So he starts to go and try to invade America. Because what he previously thought was a failing economy that he was going to have to pick up the scraps from, Lex Luthor is now turned into another plan to attack him and to otherwise get him either off of the planet or out of power. And quite a few things happen, like Superman moving faster than the speed of thought, which Jonathan Clark, just recently did in his brief stint with the Injustice, in the Injustice saga run. I really like that. I like that they referenced that. I don't know if it was from the Red Sun or if it's just something that he can do, but it's still a cool ass thing to see, even if this is Stalin's Superman. Jesus fucking Christ. Well, at this point, Brainiac Superman, because Stalin's not fucking out of here. He's out of here. He's gone. You don't have to worry about this guy anymore. And he defeats all of them pretty quickly. He begs Diana not to be on, the other side of this, but he doesn't seem to have too many qualms with attacking her regardless. It seems that he's almost gotten to a point where he does truly believe that he is above the people in some way, that he is the one that has to make all of the shots and that he rightfully should be. And I know that that is in great part by the influence of Brainiac, but because this is a man with godlike power living among a race of people who he himself would probably go as far as calling primitive to some degree. And I would say the final showcase of this is once everything's basically failed and he's gotten to the White House with Lois and her sister, who still kind of ain't shit here. Like, I have not read a single piece of comic book media, or at least, yeah, no, I have not seen a single piece of comic book media where Lucy is fully on Lois's side at all. But whatever. Lucy is trying to get her to get out of there, but she's like, no, I'm standing my ground because we still have one more trick up our sleeve. And it shows this panel of Lex Luthor saying that, well, they say that the pen is mightier than the sword, and that he has one single phrase, or at least sentence, that could end this entire regime of power for Superman. And Superman reads it, and he breaks down to his knees, and he starts to cry, because it says, why don't you just put the whole world in a bottle, Superman? And him realizing just how much influence that he and Brainiac has had over the human race, and how little it was their place to do that. And he tries to get Brainiac to call it off, but Brainiac basically just call him a dumbass nigga and be like, what the fuck? You gonna tell you ain't telling me to do shit. And thankfully, Lex Luthor is in there. So he ends up shutting down Brainiac, but unfortunately Brainiac is a dog-ass nigga and has his shit powered by black holes. So it's up to Superman to, at the speed of God knows how much, take the ship out of there and let it explode. And it just kind of ends with a pretty little bow checkmate for the, I guess you would call the main story, or this, hello, Von Trail has the zoomies. And I would say the epilogue for this shows that Lex Luthor goes on to create many feats for the United States and eventually the planetary United States. He raises the average lifespan up to 800 years old. He replaces previous politicians with philosophers, artists, and scientists. He not only improves Earth at a planetary scale, but at a galactic scale. And he has, first of all, they asked this nigga right before he dies, after doing all this shit, what was your greatest achievement? This nigga gonna say beating the alien, of course. Like, what the fuck? Like, he hate that nigga. It don't matter where he from, which is it's kind of hilarious how it ends, because he has several generations of kids, and his grandson to, I think, the 50th power, Jor-El. He sends in, he basically tells, their ruling government that we heading towards our sun, and we about to die, that has turned red now. And it seems like y'all don't have nothing else to do but die at this point, because, we ain't got to worry about shit no more. Look at what my lineage is built at this point. Yeah, you wouldn't have anything else to do but die. So he goes back Jor-El goes to Laura-El, and they put their son Kal-El in this little spaceship, or I would say time machine, and he sends him back to a more primitive time, where he knows even though he'll be so different and alone, he'll be stronger, he'll be safer, he'll be more capable. And he sends him all the way back to 1953, where he lands back in Ukraine, in that Ukrainian farm found by two loving parents, and the cycle begins again. And God, I love this story. There's no bad way to tell this story. And every version of it that I have either watched or read or listened to, every time I'm brought to tears at some point, either by the amount of sacrifice made or the amount of corruption, or even now, some of the things that coincide a bit with our world that we live in now. It is such a beautiful, beautiful story that I recommend. I recommend everybody to read. That's why I put the poll up there, because all of the things that I put there, I love. I'm only gonna talk about shit I like because I like it. But yeah, at the end of the book, it is this cosmic soliloquy of a endless an endless loop of a doomed man and a doomed world that goes on forever and ever and ever. And I think it is a brilliant concept for an Elseworld story that still holds up even, wow, over 10 years later, I think. Holy shit. But yeah, you cannot, like, you didn't hear this from me, but if you go on this, well, maybe not. Maybe you didn't hear this from me. Don't go on this website called Brave, because it doesn't have this automatic ad blocker that you can't read comics on without being, rushed by these ads. Those ads will be all over the place. Don't heed my advice. Don't go to Brave. Don't go to readingcomics.com, and don't put in your favorite comic book to read for free, because fuck capitalism. Don't do any of those things, obviously. But yeah, that was my review for Superman the Red Sun, and I will give it a full 10 out of 10. Thank you. And also, bye.